Hello. Oh, wow. Can you feel the explosion of love? I love that. How are you? Happy August. Happy walk into the 8-8 portal. It's quite intense. Not intense. It's quite accelerating. I'll say that. And it's amazing kind of energy. And welcome to Orion Spear Point. So this one kind of feels like collective in general, but very kind of like the message going forward into this lead in point. So, um, lots of fire, lots of fire. Fire energy seems to be prevalent, and heat, and this acceleration into being. So, with all this and where this is like coming from is like I was pulled into um, yeah, the Earth's mantle. So a lot of movement, especially from that earthquake. So there's a lot of movement just underneath the surface. And it feels like the preparation leading into this. So you can feel this almost boiling point of all this movement as all this energy is kind of being rearranged. Not rearranged, moving to its seat and where it's supposed to be in this kind of explosion and this real portal that is coming in. So this real point in reality that things are coming into form and clicking over. So it's a really important, not important, it's a real amazing moment to watch as this whole reality, like the everything that you've danced into the world does feel like everything's new. You can play in the world differently. The veils between worlds is very thin, so you can there's this huge like opportunity to dance and so much more energy and create and do all this kind of stuff. So there is movement underneath. There is this boiling point, so connecting into the earth's mantle and the fire and the molten energy that's underneath it and the breaking point above the surface. It does feel like it hasn't reached the surface, but you can see this reflected perfectly in the nature of reality. I mean, you can look at the politics of the United States or politics in general, or just in your day to day life. It's just like, it's just underneath the surface. And it's kind of almost this bulge, this caldera. That word has come up so many times in meditation. So, this caldera is right underneath the surface, and the movement of all of this is really accelerating. So, you can feel that within your system, and the heat and the building of that heat is, I won't say intense because it doesn't feel, today feels like the tempering point. So you can feel like very fiery. It's a lot of heat, but it's a lot of creation energy. That's what the gifts and the words that came through from the magma itself was, that it's a lot of creation energy. And it's so from the continuation from the last video and the message delivery, and it wasn't the word message dissolved within the magma itself, and it just became energy delivery. So everything that's been underneath the surface waiting for the point that is in union with the sky, with the physical reality itself, is just there, and it's building. So this boiling point, but it's not anger. It didn't touch in as fire, as anger, as that sacred rage. None of that feels like this. But the boiling point, that feels important. So it's this rising of energy as it kind of upticks. You can feel the dials kind of, and this is flowing underneath everything, and it's the huge shakeup. So, and it's the lead in. So if you feel that within your body, in your day to day life, and your energy, and this point of if you feel struggling to ground or to contain or bring things into focus, I think, oh, that's so fun. So connecting back to your breath, but also just allowing everything to move, because that's more important, because everything is moving underneath, and it just really needs to get to where it's supposed to be. That's the most important thing that I feel in the energies right now, is just to allow yourself to move. So if you have that gridlock, it can stir so much more into your system, and then it can be very visceral, very intense. And just bringing it back to allow the floodgates to open, and those channels can really flush out, and then the energy can go to where it's supposed to within your being. So this is in some ways the finishing out of all the purging that was initiated during the last month, because purging isn't tied to a specific portal, so it's a part of the embodiment journey. But it does feel like in this instance it is the continual and the last bits of the flushing out from what everything was brought up in the last month, and this huge kind of like movement underneath the surface. And this is, the more you tap into that, oh my goodness, it's so warm. It's so warm, and it's so much creation energy. So it does feel like it's really tapping into that, and you can feel the potential, and it's building. So this is the build up, and we'll call it the 8-8 portal, but I don't think it's only that. So this is all the potential energy building, crystallizing, coming into form underneath that caldera, just underneath the surface. And the shakeup is like when that comes into the physical, I don't actually feel like it's going to be disastrous or dramatic. Actually, it's how the movement underneath and allowing it to go to the places it needs to. And then when it flows into the physical, you're not surprised, because it's just like, oh yeah, like that's coming in. So this is the potential that you can see and also taste and feel within your body, because it's like activating everywhere, masculine and feminine. So if we're going to break it down to the dance of two between the masculine collective and the feminine collective energies, certainly within the creation energies and the sometimes magnetizing between the two collectives to actually play in that, because there's so much creation energy being stirred up underneath the surface. It is kind of like um the way it kind of came in was it's just barely missing, but it's kind of like those magnets where the poles are not quite correct. Have you ever played with magnets as a kid and you have the two square points and you want to get the edges completely lined up, and they just, because that's how magnetic poles work? That's how it feels with the two collectives. It's just like there's so much creation energy, so it's being pulled together because this is like so much building underneath the surface to come forth, and then it's also just missing, and then it's, but it's actually part of the dance. You can see how the rhythm, and then the more you play with the rhythm and less about perfection, because dance is not perfectionist, and it's just like just dance in that rhythm, you can feel how the energy softens. Same with to do with all the fire and the movement and all the creation energy that's building underneath the surface, sprouting forth, spreading out. So you can feel that between the dance of two. And I wouldn't restrict it to the counterparts, honestly. This feels like more of just, because we touched it about that. It doesn't have to be, creation energy is sexual energy, but doesn't mean it's intimate, physical intimacy, but it can be like how the, no, that's true. So the movement and all the movement underneath the surface and bridging into the physical is in some ways dancing between the two energies and bringing it forth and willingly going into that. And it's really, really fun to participate in. So this lead up to the 8-8, feeling underneath and all that magma. And you can even like, if you're tapped into the feelings of the earth and the feelings of the sun and how that moves within your body, you can really feel it within the Pacific and all that movement. And in some ways, I would actually say that's where the old concept, the old land of Lemuria was. So like that's a lot movement and that, a lot of activation coming forth, right? Spilling out. And I would just say it's just there's movement underneath the crust. It just feels like so much is flowing everywhere. It's active. That's a good way. Okay. And when you feel this within your system, allowing it to circulate to where it needs to go and being able to sit with it, especially in this dance and this lead in, because it's increasing, and being able to play between the worlds. So the thin energy means that the potential is more. So not limiting yourself with what has been. So in practical sense, if you purely practical, if you were a kid with a bike and the entire summer you tried to don't jump off a jump and you failed every single moment. So, and you got bumps and bruises and a broken arm and this and that. And looking at it, and you're just like, okay, it's just too far. I can't generate enough force to jump over that has nothing to do with skill. You have the chance now to tap into that and really maybe bring in some of the dragon energy or some of the bird energy and be like, okay, I'll just coast a little bit more. And then bringing that into the physical. So this is touching into the energy and then looking at it in the physical and being like, okay, the veils are thin. So let's play with it. And then when you in your kid's self jump off, like really like not just wishing upon it, right? This is actually facing your doubts and the concepts and the acceptance of what you have had within reality itself, of what you deem as possible. This is what it means when the veils are thin. Okay. Oh, that's lovely. It's a lot of fire. I'm sure you can feel it. So it's beautiful. And it's a beautiful dance into this 8-8 portal and how everything is moving in. So if you feel called, take a bath within the magmas of Mother Earth and say hi to Father Sun and walk on his surface because it does feel like this is coming into form, especially when you feel this much creation energy and the magnetism between masculine and feminine. I have always seen the harmonization and the mirror with the sun and the earth. Big reflections. So big energies. So go play with them. Go dance in their pure energy, especially when you feel this all moving within yourself. And especially if you have trouble grounding in these moments, I'll put my link below for the session so that we can like really integrate within the deep heart of Mother Earth and Father Sun because they both need it. And sometimes it's actually activating the physical heart, the energetic heart to be rhythmic with the physical heart. But it's interesting to feel it, especially as this funneling of the eye of the needle kind of comes into form. So, with that, Connor, I give you a lot of love and I give you love and warm love fire from my heart. Shine bright.